Okay, can you see us?
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Awesome. I don't know if you remember Jo, but she was from Snap Fitness.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a while ago
Okay.
now. I recognise the name.
Well, yep. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so we're recording this so that anyone that watches on the replay, they'll be able to see it. But today we're going to just run a Reinvent Yourself goal setting workshop. So essentially, rather than teach, this is more about just creating a space to think about setting your intentions for the year and having the right foundation to do the over the year. So let me just mute you all so we can get started. Okay, so for those of you who have filled out the job form that was sent out last year, it's been sent out a couple of times since then, you will recognize this. It is just a little timeline exercise, and we got some varied answers from this timeline exercise. Some were really great in depth, and others weren't as in depth. And a lot of people struggle to think in those timeframes. 10 years seems like a long time, but if you think back to 10 years ago, or if you start to see the 10-year memories come up on Facebook, it feels like it was only yesterday. So you blink and then it's 10 years tomorrow. So what I'd like you to do is, if you've got a notepad and pen handy, you can use that. Otherwise, you can just think about this. And what I'll do is I'll send out the job form to anyone who didn't get it so that you can use it and you can put down your thoughts in a space and time that you have available. So 10 years ago, if you think about where you were in your life, how healthy you were, how energetic you were, what you looked like, have a think about that and what was true for you back then. So what was your working situation? What was your, I suppose, family situation? Where were you living? And then fast forward now 7 years to 3 years ago and think about, again, how did life look? What changed? How healthy were you? Did the changes that occurred in that 7-year period change your health, your focus shifts? It's very common for your focus to shift, and it's not a bad thing. And as you'll see on the next slide, it's a constant battle of shifting focus to certain areas of your life. So if you've got that notepad handy, write down what you looked like, how you felt, how you used to function 3 years ago, and do the same thing again for a year ago. And if you're just thinking about it, you might want to close your eyes, try and see the person you were. Maybe you have photos. You should have photos. Accessibility of photos these days. Great. And 3 months ago, now that should be pretty easy. That was October.
I feel we should maybe pause it so they can,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
journal.
yeah, totally. So you can pause this if you're watching the replay. We're going to try and move through this next part as well so that you're just in the right mind frame to answer the next slides. So 3 months from now, where do you want to be? In your health, your energy, your body shape. This is going to get harder as we go along, and I'm going to have you consider that at the end of me talking through this timeline, you'll probably need to approach it differently, and I'll talk you through that as well. So a year from now, where do you want to be in your health, your energy, and your body shape? And a lot of the times when you're thinking this far ahead, you start to question yourself and think, well, what's really realistic? And those questions are okay. So let them come to you, then let them pass, and write down what your wildest dream would be. In 3 years from now, how do you want to look, feel, and function? Who will you be in 3 years from now? It might be mapped out already. It might not be. And then in 10 years, where do you want to be? Who do you want to become?
Versus the last 10 years.
Versus the last 10 years. Where were you 10? Where were we 10 years ago?
10 years ago, we were just starting.
We were just starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's our 10-year
Not even.
anniversary.
Not even.
In March.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were, geez, we just came back from festival. Only a few days
Yes.
ago. 10 years ago.
Yeah.
A beachside New Year's party. Crazy.
So then in another 10 years, you will be 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. So versus that last 10 years.
Yeah.
The next 10 years.
We'll have a 16-year-old youngest. Kind of 20-year-old. 22, 23.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So then that's when you think about what do you want to be for them in that situation.
You had Miri at 25.
24.
24. I had loads at 25. So Miri will be close to thinking about that sort of stuff. Close. Awesome. I know in the last 3 years, it's been a blip, a bit like Avengers, hasn't it?
Yeah.
A bit like the end of Avengers 1, and they when Thanos did wiped out half the universe, and there was a blip, and you woke up 5 years later back on it.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's what it feels like. Okay, we're going to move on now. If you're not quite done yet, just leave that thought there.
Just make like little jot points.
Yeah.
Forms, and then you can get back to it.
Get back to it later. And I encourage you to do this over and over.
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months. We do it every 3 months with our clients. We do it every 3 months for ourselves when we're being good little bunny rabbits. Sometimes we get lost halfway throughout the year. So this is something that you just strive to do and do it as much as you can, because the more you ask the questions, the better quality answers you get. So at the start of this year on, what was January 2, I think we sat down and we just had coffee in bed, and I drew these 3 circles. And these are the 3 main areas of life that you'll often find coaching programs around. Coaching programs around your health, your relationships, and obviously the business coaching or career coaching kind of stuff. And the reason for that is there's a big demand for self-improvement these days. People are finding and realizing the value of working on yourself, working with people who have similar goals, surrounding yourself by those people. And it's become more accessible. If you think about 20 years ago, you were stuck with the 45,000 people that you lived with in your local town, or the 10 people that you worked with in your office. But now it's quite easy to just open up your phone and you can interact with your favorite influencer, and you can believe what they believe, and you can resonate. So the reason I talk about all of this is because you are the average of the people that are around you. And when thinking about any kind of transformation, you've got to really think about the whole picture. We've been doing this for a while now.
And yeah, we have gone through spouts where we haven't thought about the whole picture and just focused on one thing, thought that was the only thing that mattered. So you have to learn that it is about the whole picture.
Definitely.
It's a domino effect, right?
Absolutely. Like if you look at this Venn diagram here, you could very easily spend 100% of your time yourself, and then neglect your service. So service meaning work or business, career. You can be 100% in work, and you can neglect yourself and your family.
Mm-hmm.
You can be 100% in your family, and you can neglect work and self too. So a lot of people will be outliers, and as you work on yourself, you start to come closer into that middle part where you get the balance. If you could imagine somebody who's got their self sorted and their business sorted, but they desperately want a family, that's a very common thing. The same as somebody who's got work and family down pat, but their body is breaking down on them and they can't enjoy their family or their work. So have a think about, from your perspective, whereabouts do you lie on this chart? If you had to pinpoint where you'd be, you've got Charmaine joining, awesome. Pinpoint where you'd be on this chart and have a think about the next step for you, because life's work is never done. Life's work should never be thrown away either. I think if you've got one or two of those things down pat, then you can take your strengths from those areas and you can add them to the missing piece of the puzzle. So a lot of you are on here for body shape change. The questions that you want to ask yourself here is, how do I do this so that it doesn't affect these other areas negatively? To think about the typical transformation challenge. 12 weeks, you eat by yourself, you train by yourself, you alienate yourself from family or maybe at work. Work colleagues go, oh, what are you eating? That smells, right? So we've all experienced that, and there are times and places for really not giving any Fs. But when you're looking at this chart and you're setting your goals for the year, have a think about what needs to be true for you to have a better balance. So if you want to pop in the chat, whereabouts do you sit on this Venn diagram? Are you self, family, or service? Are you want two of those? Do you feel like you've got two of those under control?
Or do you need to work on the whole balance?
What's going to get you closer to the middle? When we did this exercise, we came up with 3 statements that we wanted to have true by the end of the year. And they were positively geared, so they weren't negatively geared. And off the top of my head, we wanted to consistently practice what we preach in our self.
Absolutely, yeah, in our health.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
and live our products.
And if you have that, then it ricochets down to the next one,
which is, in our case,
health. Service, which is our career.
Yep.
And relationships is our family, our friends, those that are surrounding us, clients.
Yep.
Yeah. If we haven't got that first bit sorted and properly, not an all or nothing is what we teach. Yeah, it just balances out all of them.
Yeah. Joe, looks like you want to say something. You want to take yourself off mute? No, you good? Cool.
You're on the spot there.
Yeah. Feel free to chat. Like, I want this to be interactive. And if you
Does everyone put anything in the chat yet?
If you want to pop anything in the chat. So I can't see anything in the chat yet. Maybe some people are listening while they're driving, and that's okay as well. Beautiful. Okay, let's move on. So it's this point, once you've set some goals around those 3 areas, that you'll often find that there are some obstacles, and very, very commonly, those obstacles will be around the things that you're really good at, you focus in on. I think Charmaine's just chimed in, and she needs to
Self
work on
and
herself
family,
and
for
family.
sure, yeah,
For sure.
because you've got your career down pat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's only if you work on yourself and your family, that's only going to improve your work as well. Then you're not going to come home so tired. You're going to have more time for the kids. You're going to have more energy for training, etc., etc.
Definitely. So the big quote here that I like to use, that we like to use, is flip the script, because the way that behavior works is you'll have beliefs that are entrenched from childhood, and those beliefs dictate your behavior throughout your life. And then those behaviors obviously result in where you are now. So in order to change behavior, in order to change your current state, you must first change your beliefs so that you can then change your behaviors and then obviously change your current state. So if you're seeking out better health, more energy, a better body shape, if you're seeking out other areas of connection with family, if you're seeking out more consistent wealth, income, because you're not so tired and burnt out, you've got to identify the beliefs and the stories that you're telling yourself. That's the easiest way to identify those beliefs, is to identify the stories that you tell yourself as to why you can't achieve a certain thing. So a typical one would be, I don't have time because I've got 3 kids. The story there is that the 3 kids, they take up all of this person's time, and therefore they have no time for self. The flip to that script would be, I've got 3 kids, so I've got to be healthy, be energetic, and be productive so that I can do the things that I need to do a lot quicker than what I currently do them, so I don't procrastinate on them. So then I have more time for the kids.
But also, flipping the script in that I have to do it all on my own.
Totally.
Yeah. Instead of I need to involve my kids in this process and it be an enjoyable process for all of us.
Exactly. That's where the cookbook came about. Is that we get the kids in the kitchen and we wanted to show the world.
Yeah.
What that
but also
like.
That all or nothing approach as well. I have to do this because I want to, I want to lose weight and I want to do this, I want to do that. And I have to go on this extreme diet to get the results that I want. Instead of, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to cover all of this right now, so I'm going to work on just this. And then when I feel ready and my whole family is ready, then we can work on the next thing and the next step.
Yeah. So what are the stories that you tell yourself
that are getting in the way?
What are the stories that are getting in the way of your doing the consistent work? Pop it in the chat. If you need to take a few breaths, to think and clear your mind.
Makes me think.
Take your time. It's important we get at least one story from you out of this, because that story, when we flip it, will mean that you jump that hurdle, that next hurdle.
Yeah, and when it's vocal, when you've owned it and you've become vulnerable, then you have the chance to then flip it. Otherwise, if you just keep it to yourself and you hold on, you're not going to move forward.
This is the important work in this workshop, because it's very abstract to think about where am I going to be in 10 years. It's very abstract to think, what goals do I want to achieve in a year? But it becomes much more real when you start to think about what's stopping me right now in this moment. What do we got? Charmaine.
I take time out for myself. I miss out on times with the kids, which makes me a bad mum. And I'll tell you a little story. Yesterday, I was feeling quite overwhelmed and like frustrated, irritated, and all the emotions. And I actually just said, you know what, I'm going to take some time out for myself. We've been with each other, like all of us have been with each other, on top of each other since Christmas. So there's no harm in me walking down to a beauty appointment. And I went and grabbed a coffee and I sat there by myself and just had some time to myself. And I came back all refreshed. And I actually had patience. I actually was excited to chat to them. So you're not a bad mum for taking time out for yourself. You're actually a better mum. That's how you can flip that script.
Yeah, 100%. I know that I struggle to make time to go out with the boys and do something that is manly, because I feel like I've got to work my ass in the ground. And if I'm not working my ass in the ground, well, we're not moving forward in our wealth and our business. We're not achieving our goal of influencing the world in the way that we want to influence the world. So I struggle to switch off for sure.
And to flip that script, if you switch off for a little while, you come back refreshed.
Yeah. So I'm doing some work. You are too. Any more stories? Willing to share? No,
You can pop them in the chat if you want. We'll move on, but if you pop them in the chat, that way they're out there, they're out of your head and they're out of your heart. And then you can start thinking about how you can flip that.
Yeah, and at least put it down on paper. If not today.
With our clients every week, we get them to write it down in their check-its and look at this every single week.
Yeah, and it's the same questions over and over again, because the more you ask the questions, the better the answers.
The deeper they get, and the more change you create.
There's a famous quote, and it's I don't know who it's by, but it's basically the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your life. So focus on the process. Now, one of the biggest problems with goal setting is they, as I said, are abstract. They're far away, and often they are so elaborate, they require many steps to get there. So when setting goals, what we like to do is make sure that there's an actionable daily task on the other side of that goal. So I'm going to really spell this out simply for you, because we've done this so many times. We've got about 26 years experience between us. Sounds like a lot, hey? Shit.
Combined.
Combined. And, hundreds, potentially thousands of people that we've talked to and interacted with and we've influenced, okay? And when you have our perspective, we have some common patterns that appear. Most people, if they want to work on self, there's a few things that they'll need to pack their bag with before they go on that journey. And often that bag is not packed well enough. You think about going on a trip to Mount Everest, a climb, an expedition up to the summit. You're going to need to pack a pretty heavy bag, right? You're going to need a team leader, and you're going to need a team to support you to get up there. So what we're going to focus on at the moment is the bag that you're going to pack, and essentially what we're going to look at is, well, what do you need in order to sustainably achieve a health and fitness result for your body, so that then you've got the physiology, you've got the resources then to give out to the other areas of your life. So the first thing that people need more of is energy, okay? Everyone's lacking energy right now. It's not time, okay? It's not money, because if you're thinking about energy, if you had more energy, you would be more productive and you would earn more. If you had more energy, you would have more time because you're doing things faster. So energy is the one thing that we lack, and it's because of the distractions that are around us. It is because of the constant attention grabbing that our nights get later, our sleep gets more interrupted, and we have more people to take care of as you go through life. You've only got yourself to worry about, but then you've got your friends that you want to appease and get their approval from. And then you've got family, so kids come along. And then you've got, well, okay, career, because you've got to now take care of that family. So you've got this whole process through life that's pretty predictable. And for most people, this will be true that at some point along the way, you've got an energy deficit. And this is the biggest problem when people go, oh, I want to get in shape. They stop eating all the junk food that they've been eating, or they cut back on the food that they're eating, and they start exercising more, and they plummet into an even larger energy deficit. So the first thing you need to pack your bag with is energy, because when you've got more energy, then you become, as I keep saying, more productive and therefore more motivated to do things to fuel you. So that's the next thing, is that if you're going to go on a trip, you would make sure that you've got some energy bars for the road. Or another analogy is if you're going out into the desert, or you're driving a long way, and there's not going to be any petrol stations around, you're going to pack some fuel. So the fuel equation really comes back to, well, okay, now I've got energy back. I'm working within my current capacity. If I want to be fitter, healthier, and stronger, I'm going to need more energy. Where am I going to get that from? I'm going to get that from fuel. Yeah. And then the last thing is, if you look at life, the one thing that dictates age is fragility. We get more fragile as we get older. That's a definite, but what you can do is you can slow that. You've seen people, I'm sure, in your life who've literally fallen off a cliff. They've been 58 and healthy and well, and then they turn 59 or 60, and then bang, crash. They've got 2 or 3 lifestyle diseases, and they're struggling with all sorts of stuff. Or maybe it's been for yourself, and you have hit your 40s, and all of a sudden you're questioning everything that you've done in your life, and then you're struggling with either anxiety, or on the other side with depression. Maybe there's been some traumatic things in your life as well that has contributed to that. All these things are underlined by strength in physiology and strength in mental aptitude. So you need to pack your bag with strength. And the way that we do this, and the way that you should do this, because it's the most efficient way, is to have 3 things. Because when you focus on less, you achieve more. The first thing is something that gives you energy. A little repair ritual around bedtime, wherever that bedtime lies. If you're a shift worker and it's at 1 a.m., or if you are a mum that's woken up by a breastfeeding child, it might be multiple times throughout the night that you have to implement this repair ritual. You need some kind of way, a container, to say, okay, these are the things that I'm doing, and this is resulting in more energy. Boom. So you need a repair ritual. What is the process that you're going to repeat day in, day out for the next 52 weeks, 365 days, that will give you more energy?
Better sleep.
And better sleep. It might be reading a book before bed. It might be listening to an audio book.
Getting off the tablets, not playing Candy Crush before you go to bed.
Yep.
Leaving it out, leaving the screens out of the room.
Yep.
Creating a buffer.
Yep.
Before we fall asleep. Even a mantra.
Totally. Meditation.
I have a mantra.
Mantra, yeah.
I have a book and a mantra every night.
And then there's the fuel piece to this. How are you going to fuel yourself, and how are you going to do it in a way that is not going to take energy away from you?
Sustainable.
How are you going to do it in a way that you don't have to think about it? It's on a conveyor belt, and you've got an abundance of fast, delicious, nutritious food available. A lot of us are guilty of going too hard, too fast, and you know, we see people on Facebook doing, or on Instagram doing meal preps that are huge on a Sunday, and we try it, then we don't like it, then we spawn off food prepping for 6 months, 12 months, 6 years, 12 years. Yeah, and then we go into maybe muscle meals. Then we find that it's too expensive to keep up.
Well, they don't taste good.
They don't taste good. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had people say to me, but they don't taste good. We're applying now. She used to order those types of meals, and she's like, they don't taste good.
No, not at all. And you can't control how much you get unless you buy 2 of those meals and you eat 2 of those meals, right?
Yeah, and then that gets expensive and not satisfying. So anyway, fuel.
And then strength. So let's devise a way to get stronger in our modern day, because no, we don't run, jump, chase lions and hunt anymore. Because of that, we don't have all day to get strong. Most of us are doing well if we have 2 to 3 hours a week to get strong. So what are you going to do on a weekly basis to get strong? How are you going to flip the scripts
I don't have time to go to the gym
on time
Mm.
to fit it in?
Don't have to go to the gym.
Now, this ties into the last one and what I was saying about packing your bag. When you identify what your daily actions are or your weekly actions are, so you've got what you need energy, you need fuel, you need strength. This will take care of self. And you know that you need some kind of repair ritual, you need some kind of nutrition rhythm, and you need some kind of movement groove, something that you can do that's an enjoyable process that makes you stronger in a small amount of time. Once you've identified all that, then you need to start to think about this. Do I have the knowledge? Or do I need to get the knowledge? Where can I get that knowledge from?
Do I have the structure?
Do I have the structure? Yep.
Do I have the accountability?
Yep. Totally. So knowledge is one thing, but how do you transform knowledge into action? You need to develop a mindset. You need to adopt a new identity. If you're the person who hates exercise, consider that maybe you need to become the person who loves exercise.
Or just is okay with doing some exercise because it's going to be good for me.
Yep. Or if you're somebody who hates to cook or doesn't cook because you're only cooking for one person because you're at that stage in your life, or maybe you don't cook because there's too many people to cook for.
Yeah. We had someone say that to us the other day. Oh, I tried to do a prep once, but there's so many of us. And I was like, and that's because they should be helping too.
Totally.
You
Yeah.
should not be doing it on your own.
So that's a mindset, isn't it? And it comes from a belief of seeing what your parents did and then replicating that.
Yeah.
And then after mindset is the skills. Surrounding all of those three things, so knowledge, mindset, and skills, is the accountability, it is the coaching, it is the surrounding yourself with people who are like you and have the same goals as you. It's all of those things.
For people that have been there before you and achieved those, and so they can do exactly what this picture is doing, giving you a helping hand.
Yep.
Move forward.
100%. There's a story about the 4-minute mile, and it was, I think it was Thomas Bannister or something like that. I probably butchered the name, but the world believed that it was not possible to run a mile in 4 minutes until this Bannister guy ran a mile in 4 minutes. And you know what happened the next year? So for the 100 years leading up to, in the recorded history leading up to him doing his 4-minute mile, no one was recorded to have run that pace. And the year after, there were about 20 to 25 records broken in that same 4-minute mile. They just got faster and faster and faster. Why? Because one person who believed it was possible went out and achieved the impossible, and then because other people saw that, they then did that. So we'll leave it on this note: is who do you have inside of your circle that you look up to, that you know that they've had similar struggles to you? Who do you have, or if you don't have somebody, maybe you need to get someone who has overcome the obstacles and the struggles that you currently have right now. Okay, I can think of, off the top of my head, 4 or 5 people in our coaching programs who have achieved some pretty cool shit that other people look at. Tammy, Sarah Dorman, and these are the people that end up becoming leaders because they've sorted their own shit out, and now that they're in a position to lead, they can start leading because other people start looking up to them. we've gone through our own health struggles as well. I've come from binge eating. I've come from being almost, I'll probably say, if I went to a doctor, I would be diagnosed with bulimic at a point. And then, you've got your health struggles that you've overcome as well, chronic fatigue.
Yeah, exercise, like an over-exerciser.
Over-exercising.
Yeah, under-eating. Yeah.
So that brings us to the end now, and we're proud to just show that we've got heaps of resources that can help you on this journey in 2023, reinventing yourself. Megan's got a podcast on motherhood and female empowerment. So if you want the link to that, just let me know, pop it in the chat, and just put your hand up in the chat or say yes in the chat, and I'll make sure you get it. Or if you're watching this on replay, I'll make sure the link is with the video itself. We've got the 15 cookbook now. So that's a great little tool that you can have that in the kitchen. And I know, Joe, you've got it, and Charmaine, you've got it as well.
Yeah.
You can have that in the kitchen, and it's there then. It's not hidden in a phone. It's not lost in some download. It's bright. I had a mate of mine say, I love the colours on it because it doesn't look like it doesn't look like
I love it. We love it too.
But he said it doesn't look like a normal recipe book. So it doesn't blend in with the bookcase. It really pops out. So that's the thing. You need to put things inside of your environment that are tools that you can go, okay, that was what I actually failed to mention earlier, is you got your knowledge, skills, mindset, tools. You need tools, right? Tools to make this life easier. And that's the cookbook.
The cookbook is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got the Fit Mum method, Fit Dad method. So these are two really cool coaching programs that are literally a straight path to optimal health for dads and mums. I've also got one for people without kids as well, or kids that have grown up. And the reason that we have our program segmented like this is because of that reason, or that benefit of having other people around you who are similar to you, who have the same struggles, the same stories that need to be told or shown.
Solve those specific problems.
That it's possible. Yeah, exactly. So thank you for joining for us today. I know it was late notice in getting that text out last night. If you are watching on the replay and you want to have a chat about any of these things or anything spoken about today, my DMs are open. Megan's DMs are open. Just message us on Facebook or Instagram. It's probably the easiest and most straightforward line of communication.
Thanks, yeah.
And I hope you have a rocking 2023. We all deserve growth, happiness. We deserve all of these things this year after the last few years. And even if those last few years didn't transpire, we still deserve every single year to grow, because if you don't grow, you're dying.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Bye.
Bye.